WESN.
Folks, we're back and better than ever.
Your show have always appeared to be a show that is focused on going to the cause or looking to the cause.
We hardly ever talk about the white-collar crime, though. We always talk about the ones that involve more as physical violence against individuals.
The citizens will only measure transmission when water starts to flow through their taps.
The Constitution doesn't talk about local election.
Contract mafia is responsible for looting the country, and they own and operate these politicians.
So if you are running a country and you can't say nothing as a prime minister, please take up your bag and go.
It is not comparative to the murder figures, but it is in fact very high.
I believe he's protecting certain individuals.
WESN.
Hello there, and welcome to AM Prime on WESN, the content capital. Thank you very much for joining us for this edition of the program. We are starting with regional updates this morning, just to give you a sense of what is happening across the Caribbean, the region, because there is a mixture of both good news and bad news, which we appreciate. You're not always going to get completely good news or completely bad news, but before we do that, in conversations with my colleagues before the show started, I was reminded, and kudos to them, it's a reminder to share with you as well, that the Water and Sewage Authority will be shutting down the Carney water treatment plant from this Friday. I think it's from 9 o'clock in the morning, if I'm not mistaken, to Sunday evening. That will affect approximately 500,000 households in East, North, and parts of Central Trinidad. In fact, approximately 500,000 households are due to be affected by the shutdown of that plant. So just to let you know, there will be no water from Friday morning till Sunday afternoon, evening. So though many of you may be accustomed to not having water for days, maybe weeks, even months on end, I would still tell you that in any way possible, please store enough water for use over that 3-day period. It is going to be very difficult because, of course, residents will be affected, but businesses within these areas will also be affected. So it is essentially, it's effectively a shutdown unless you have water storage capabilities. That will suffice, dependent on whether or not you're a business entity or, of course, a residential connection. But just to remind again, and we will remind you, of course, throughout the course of the week for that shutdown that is due to start from this Friday morning. Also, just very quickly as well, Tobago recorded its 19th murder for the year. When you used to have about 1 murder, 2 murders taking place in Tobago, it used to be something that you were not accustomed to. It led to a sense of shock. But yesterday in Argyle, a Shakona's woman, known by her alias as Dolly Boss, was shot multiple times by gunmen. She was taken to the hospital where she eventually succumbed to her injuries, and police, of course, are continuing investigations. But 19th murder for the year in Tobago. We just passed the halfway mark. TNT, as a nation in its entirety, recorded 66 murders for the month of July. 66 murders for the month of July, and that's it's third highest on record here in TNT. We've smashed records within the last few years. And I really wonder if the divine intervention is working. I really wonder if the divine intervention on the part of the TDPS is working. Not that I'm making a mockery of it. Of course, we all need some sense of spirituality and of course, God in our lives. But at the same time, remember, God said he only helps those who help themselves, right? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, what more can I say? I've always exhausted myself in expressing my opinions on this particular topic. And of course, the debate will always continue. 66 murders for the month of July. To be with yesterday recording, it's 19th murder for the year. I'm not going to be surprised with the statistics at the end of the year. I am not going to be surprised. I already have very high expectations, if you know what I mean. Anyway, as I said, we're starting with regional updates this morning, and our first update, in fact, our first two updates come from Venezuela. The first is a report by France 24, which focuses on what is taking place in respect to the elections and the protest. Now, we did have an interview yesterday, and AM Prime's entire show yesterday was based off of what is taking place in Venezuela, hearing from David Abdullah and the position of the MSJ, who are of the opinion that the elections were free and fair, and even congratulating President Nicolas Maduro and showing no favor with the Western world or even with Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State of the United States. But this report comes from France 24, and there was fresh protest over the weekend after President Nicolas Maduro's disputed election victory was ratified. That was mentioned yesterday during the interview. A number of nations have recognized the opposition, as they did, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago with Juan Guaido. But again, we have been promised full election results. That hasn't happened as yet, at least to my knowledge. So let's take a look at this report from France 24.
First up, Venezuela is bracing for more protests this Saturday. President Nicolas Maduro's election win has been ratified, but a growing number of countries are recognizing his opposition rival, Edmundo Gonzalez, as the actual winner. Both parties have called their supporters out to the streets. The opposition has released copies of around 85% of the ballots cast online, showing an easy win for Gonzalez, but the government claims these have been forged. Let's hear from our correspondent, Herminia Fernandez.
5 days after the election, the National Electoral Council published a second bulletin with the result, where triumph of Nicolas Maduro was ratified. According to the numbers of the electoral institution, Maduro won with more than 51% of the votes, and Edmundo Gonzalez obtained more than 43%. Later on, the Supreme Court of Justice would also ratify these numbers. The President Nicolas Maduro was the one who requested the ICNTT to legitimize the result. After visiting the Supreme Court, Maduro held a press conference with foreign media. Among other accusations, he pointed out that members of Maria Corina Machado's party were planning an attack in the capital city. He also accused the United States of preparing a coup d'etat against Venezuela, after Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said that this country recognized Edmundo Gonzalez as the new president of the third American nation. He also accused ex-platform owner Elon Musk, Argentina President Javier Milei, and other world leaders of being behind a cyber coup. Meanwhile, both the opposition and supporters of Nicolas Maduro have called for 2 marches today, Saturday, in different parts of the capital. The opposition in the east in support of Edmundo Gonzalez, and the government in the west to celebrate what they call the victory of the peace. At this moment, the political tension after the election continues in the streets.
So we're continuing with the updates coming from courtesy Al Jazeera, because you would have heard in that France 24 report of opposition leaders actually calling for a fresh mass protest. Now, since the election results were announced last week Sunday by the CNE, and that's late Sunday night into the early hours of Monday morning, over 2,000 people have been arrested in Venezuela as part of mass demonstrations. That's over 2,000 people. That number was given to the Venezuelan people by President Nicolas Maduro last week, Friday. That, of course, would have more than likely increased as of this morning. But this report from Al Jazeera actually highlights the protest even more in Venezuela and the calls from the opposition for people to come out in the masses. So let's take a look at this report.
Carrying Venezuelan flags and wearing white T-shirts, thousands of people took to the streets with one message: we're here to defend our vote. In spite of being threatened with prison, opposition leader Maria Corina Machado joined the protest.
The world knows they intend to forcefully withhold the result. 6 days later, they have not handed over a single record. The period has expired and the pseudo-legal maneuver can cover up the truth. The truth is in our tallies and the fact is in our hearts.
The Electoral Council has declared President Nicolás Maduro the winner, though it has failed to publish the fully voting results. The government says its system was hacked. Opposition supporters, who also acted as witnesses on election day, displayed some of the tally sheets in their possession as proof of what they say was a massive fraud. Over 1,000 people have been arrested in the past week. 90 of them teenagers, human rights groups say. Andrés Cañizales is a Venezuelan professor. He says Sunday's election was the beginning of a new era in Venezuela.
In the past, you had an authoritarian government that held semi-competitive elections. Now the government does not accept results and decides to rule all the same.
President Nicolás Maduro says the opposition is trying to get him out of office and blames the United States. On Saturday, thousands of his supporters also took to the streets to defend the administration.
I denounce that the government of the United States, together with Elon Musk and the international fascist of Milei, are at the forefront of a destabilization process and a coup d'etat at this moment against the Venezuelan people and against Venezuelan democracy.
This is not the first time Maduro has faced a controversial election or protests on the streets. But it is the first time the opposition says it can prove they defeated him. That's why they say they will remain on the streets, convinced truth is on their side. Teresa Bo, Al Jazeera.
Make sure to subscribe.
So what I'm pleased about in that report as well, it gave a glimpse. It didn't do justice in its entirety, but it gave a glimpse to the fact that there are demonstrations in Venezuela as well in support of President Nicolás Maduro. And we're not necessarily getting all that footage being shared with the world via these news outlets. You can get, of course, some footage over the internet, but of course, Western news outlets are not necessarily showing all of the supporters, the demonstrations in support of President Nicolás Maduro. Now, just bear in mind that Hugo Chavez was incredibly popular during his time as president of Venezuela due to high government spending on social programs and his relationship with the people of Venezuela as a whole. There was also a sense, just a sense, it's a very famous picture, if you recall the Summit of the Americas meeting that took place in Trinidad and Tobago with Hugo Chavez actually embracing President of the United States, then President of the United States, Barack Obama. That became a very, very infamous photo and still very much speaks to the possibilities that existed then, just simply from that one photo. It said a lot. But also in that photo, you saw in the background Nicolás Maduro, because he was Hugo Chavez's right-hand man. He was also Venezuela at the time the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and he was handpicked by Hugo Chavez to be his successor. Unfortunately, Nicolás Maduro doesn't necessarily have that pull factor, that sense of attraction that Hugo Chavez had to the people of Venezuela, though we must recognize that he still has quite a lot of support, as that report hinted at. Anyway, moving on with elections, focusing on elections still. What's happening in Haiti in respect to elections? Well, this report addresses such, where leaders of CARICOM expect elections to take place in Haiti in 2025. Now, we know CARICOM heads of government met last week, and coming out of that meeting, this report was obviously collated, but there is a report that was presented by the head of the Transitional Presidential Council in Haiti, and that's Edgar Leblanc-Phil. So let's take a look at this report on elections in Haiti.
Phils delivered the report during the closed-door caucus meeting of the regional leaders that is ending later on Tuesday. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, said the regional leaders were encouraged by the report.
Well, we are quite happy that we made some significant progress with Haiti. You know, CARICOM, we had quietly and firmly worked on Haiti. We got the transition arrangement out of the way. We got the council in place, and the Kenyans are on the ground in Haiti, fully supported by the resource base of the Americans and the Canadians. And these were things that were not there before, and we literally had to fight our way to that position. The Prime Minister is here, and I think we're in a much better place now, even though there's still a lot of problems there. But it's not as hopeless as it appeared when the gangs were roaming the street.
Haiti has been without an elected head of state since July 7, 2021, when President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated at his private residence overlooking Port-au-Prince. The murder of Moïse and subsequent events led to CARICOM establishing an eminent persons group in a bid to help solve the political and socio-economic situation in Haiti. The group is comprised of former Prime Ministers Dr. Kenny Anthony of St. Lucia, Perry Christie of the Bahamas, and Bruce Golding of Jamaica. St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Dr. Raul Gonzalez says the humanitarian situation is very difficult in Haiti.
Remember, you have over half of Haitian population which is vulnerable to the issue of food insecurity, and then they need more police and who to pay for them, and what kind of additional support that CARICOM can give, and the role the council, the presidential council, and the eminent persons group would define what role the eminent persons group can play in going forward. The eminent persons group, they've done a fantastic job thus far in mediating and shepherding up this process. They've started the process of having nominations for the Electoral Council. And I believe that the idea which they have in mind is that before the end of next year to have elections in Haiti, which is a lot of progress which has been made.
Prime Minister Rowley said that the caucus had also discussed the crime situation in the Caribbean.
Well, we discussed the legislative response to the criminal challenge, and interestingly, virtually all the territories had the same kind of problem, and we are considering another meeting to deal with focusing on the legislative responses, because it appears as though there are some things which we can and should do, but there are some obstacles in the way which are common to all of us, and therefore the Attorneys General would be looking at them to see how we can interface better with the judiciary and with the national community in dealing with the realities of the crime problem.
Informed sources said that Barbados has offered to host the next regional consultation on crime. On the issue of the implementation of free movement, CARICOM leaders had at one stage indicated that a definitive position would be taken before the Greendot summit. Prime Minister Rowley said it would be discussed before the summit ends. The caucus did not adopt any position on Venezuela, where presidential elections were held on Sunday and President Nicolas Maduro retained power.
There was a brief discussion on it, but it wasn't a conclusive discussion because time was very, very late. We left the caucus after 11 o'clock.
Does that mean CARICOM may not be issuing a statement one way on Venezuela?
I'm not so sure.
The situation is further compounded by the fact that several of the CARICOM leaders were not present at the summit.
Sure, actually, my apologies. I think I was a bit muted for a while, but as I was saying, we're getting into some really, really good news coming out of the Olympics, and that is actually to what the Caribbean as a whole can celebrate, and starting with St. Lucia, where Julian Alfred captured St. Lucia's first ever Olympics medal, and it's gold. It's gold, and that's in the women's 100-meter dash. She actually won it in 10.72 seconds. Again, history being made. Julian Alfred winning St. Lucia's first ever Olympics medal, and it's gold. Let's take a look at this report, courtesy of the Olympics.
Their faces are a picture of concentration. More than 2 decades ago, these incredible women were just 8 little girls daring to dream that a night like this might one day belong to them. And after a lifetime of work and sacrifice, at last it's their turn. So here they stand, in the pouring rain, the best in their country, the best on their continent, bidding to become the best in the world. An iconic moment of sport is about to unfold in all its glory. This is the women's 100-meter Olympic final. Start in the semi-final, and she's away well again. She's up on Richardson at the moment. Julian Alfred, the history maker, the gold medalist. In the pouring rain, it's all sunshine for the St. Lucian Star. They've never won a medal before, and now they've taken the best one of the lot. Julian Alfred has stunned Richardson, the favourite. The world champion was left in her blocks.
Julian Alfred just had too much, way too much tonight.
Richardson got left in the blocks, as she did in the semi-finals, and she could not find an answer. She did in Budapest, but not tonight. Images that will be replayed in St. Lucia again and again and again. No medal, no medal. And now the women's Olympic champion over 100 metres. And it is a beautiful, proud island. I've had the privilege of going there a couple of times. They love their cricket, but I tell you what, they're going to love their athletics now.
All the hype that surrounded her, and she led in the States every Olympic coverage, every promo with Sha'Carri Richardson and Noah Lyles.
But look at the smile on that woman's face as well, and she deserves that. She is someone that has put the weight of the shoulders on her as well.
I guarantee you those tears were coming.
Yeah, and then Melissa Brown, such a great... Melissa Jefferson, just such a great story as well. But look at the emotion. Look at that.
And it was never in doubt. From 10 meters out. She was out, and it was
her race.
And it was over.
Yep. You know, you didn't see a lot of smiling.
I would say from the women's 100-meter final at Paris 2024, where we celebrate with St. Lucia their first ever Olympics medal, and it is gold. Well, as I mentioned, we've got some more good news to share with you coming out of the Olympics, and it's in respect to Dominica. But we've also got news coming out of Grenada, where Lyndon Victor also won gold for Grenada. So we get into all of that a bit later on. For now, we're going to take a break here on the program, but I promise you that we will bring you those updates as we continue to celebrate in the success of our Caribbean brothers and sisters. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Folks, we're back and better than ever.
Your show have always appeared to be a show that is focused
on going to the cause or looking to the cause.
We hardly ever talk about the white-collar crime, though. We always talk about the ones that involve more as physical violence against individuals.
The citizens will only measure transmission when water starts to flow through their taps.
The Constitution doesn't talk about local election.
Contract mafia that's responsible for looting the country, and they own and operate these politicians.
So if you are running a country and you can't say nothing as a prime minister, please take up your bag and go.
It is not comparative to the murder figures, but it is in fact very high.
I believe he's protecting certain individuals.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm continuing with the good news this morning. Now, unfortunately, before I get into that, we are trying to get that update in respect to Grenada's gold, a medal courtesy of Lyndon Victor. We are trying, but we may not have it to share with you this morning. That's okay, we can bring it to you maybe tomorrow, maybe Thursday. But we do have a clip of Dominica's Thea Lanford, where she won essentially Dominica's first ever medal at an Olympics, and again it's gold. It's quite incredible, the stories that we're hearing coming out of the Olympics with some of these Caribbean nations. Even good news coming out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines as well, where they have for the very first time a woman has made it to the finals of their heat. Again, that report we'll try to bring to you later on. But let's start with this for Dominica's Thea Lanford, who has won gold at the Olympics. This video clip, this report, courtesy of Sportsmax TV. Let's take a look at it.
Sporting period this for Dominicans. Cricketers Alex Athanaze and Kavem Hodge now established in the West Indies Test team. The Dominican teenager Stephen Pascal, appointed West Indies under-19 captain. And while Lafon's Olympic gold on Saturday is celebrated, we have to remember that she had, from March this year in Glasgow, advertised her global class with world indoor triple jump gold.
Just like Julian Alfred signaled to the world that something big was going to come, and they both delivered in fine fashion.
IOC member, Olympian, one gold medal. And among the presentation party, Mike Sands, who is president of NACAC and a former president of the Bahamas Athletics Association. Former Olympian himself.
Bronze medalist, Jasmine Moore. Representing the United States of America.
Moore takes the bronze medal.
First American to win an Olympic triple jump medal. Difficult conditions for these competitors last night. Pouring rain. But Jasmine Moore, all smiles, having come through that triumphantly. How about Shanika Ricketts? Twice a world championship silver medalist. Was favourite for a medal in Tokyo 3 years ago. Finished fourth, like her countrywoman Trisha K. Smith back in 2004. But this time around, when she wasn't necessarily among the favourites coming in, because, as she admitted, she hasn't had the best season leading up to the Olympic Games. But she's found a way to peak, and the season's best 14.87 meters delivers her an Olympic medal. The first Jamaican to win an Olympic medal in this event, the women's triple jump.
That will sound great to her and her tens of thousands of fans. Based in the USA now, and has represented Dominica with pride and distinction. history for Dominica in the Olympics. Before now, their best ever finishes at the Olympic Games would have been 12th, which she had in Tokyo 2021, and Jerome Romain also 12th in Atlanta in 1996, also in the triple jump. Dominica's national anthem, for the first time in Olympic history, will now be played.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you can, please stand for the anthem of Dominica.
24 years ago, Obadele Thompson would have had this experience as the first individual medalist for his country at the Olympic Games. He is beside me to my left. Oba, what's happening with these Dominicans and the feeling that Lafon is experiencing at the moment?
Yeah, you see the outpouring of emotions. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to hear the Barbadian anthem, but it's such an exhilarating feeling, knowing that you're the first in your country's history to do it. You know, being from a smaller island and then being able to turn up on the biggest sporting stage in the world and show people, yes, we're small in size, small in number, but we are among the best. And as proof.
Well, that report really gives you chills. It's one thing, you know, knowing that you won gold for your country at the Olympics, but the pride that they allow for, the expression of pride and joy, the emotions on her face, you know, seeing the flag of her nation, of her country being raised at the Olympics, and the sound of a national anthem being played, that is incredible. And that feeling alone, wow. And I'll tell you what, we really share in the joy of Dominica winning their first ever Olympics medal and its gold. And of course, the report before St. Lucia's first Olympic medal and its gold. We've got a report in respect to Grenada and Lyndon Victor striking gold as well. That report will come at a later time this week. But we are all celebrating in the Caribbean for, you know, for all the achievements that's happening. And very soon, very, very soon, you will hear TNT's national anthem playing once more at the Olympics. Very, very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a break on the program. We will resume shortly.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I'd ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lips?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement. If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No.
Let's go to the last part.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with us this morning as we continue the conversation. We're shifting gears a bit. We've ended our regional updates for now, and we are welcoming to the program the Tobago officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association, that's TUTIB, Mr. Braden Roberts, to speak to us about the preparedness or where we at this point in respect to schools opening for the new school year, the new academic year. Mr. Roberts joins us virtually. Good morning, sir, and welcome to AM Prime.
Good morning, sir, and thank you for having me on the set.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Roberts. As I mentioned, with just over 3 weeks to go before the new academic year begins, where are we in respect to the preparedness for schools to reopen and be fully functional as it welcomes back students and welcomes new students?
Well, I am also in the same position that you are in, trying to find out where we are. I had a conversation with the secretary, an unofficial conversation, where it was indicated that, you know, there was a team working on the repairs and schools would have been visited. and work should have been started. However, the feedback I'm getting from the principals is that they are in the same boat that you and I are in. We want to know where we are with the repairs. Several principals reached out indicating that nothing has started at their school as yet. I was really hoping to not reach to the stage where September morning we're going to be complaining about stuff. I would have submitted to the division, I believe it was April, the ending of April, a list of issues that tutor gathered. And I know the principals sent to the division all the things that they would like to have fixed during the July-August vacation period. And I have not gotten any confirmation from any principal of what started in their school.
You're kidding. I'm pretty sure you would have seen my expression, the expression on my face when you were responding that with just over 3 weeks to go, even principals aren't entirely sure as per the status or the updates as to the preparedness of schools.
And the disappointing thing is we have been going through this for years, so it's not like something should be surprising us this time around. We have had this challenge for several years where the last week of the vacation period, we're trying to rush things in. Sometimes the contractors with a short time feel not able to do proper work, so we have to do the same thing over and over again. It's confusing. I know that we would have used some of the same schools that needed repairs to do, I think it was an impact program where they put some children and had some classes and so on. But we have to work with a plan. And the plan, if we use proper foresight, we should be able to plan ahead to know how these things would work so that we don't have a problem come September morning. But I suspect that based on what is happening on the ground, we would have a challenge come September unless there is some miracle to be done during the next week or two. I suspect that there will be some challenges coming September morning.
But, again, you would think planning at least is the easy part. It's the execution that's a different thing. You said that you, however, had the opportunity to have an informal discussion with the Secretary of Education on the island of Tobago. I believe that's Sir Shackett. In doing so, I'm curious to know whether or not communication in respect to information itself has seen some sort of improvement. Are you getting the necessary support and the flow of information that you would hope for?
Well, in terms of the communication with the secretary, now I would do my job regardless of the quality of the communication. It would be best if we are able to communicate well. So even when the communication gets a little rocky, the Tobago officer will be doing his job. So we have been able to go through some rough times. I mean, the communication will have improved over time. So yes, now we have quite good communication. We would have had a few meetings this year as well. It's not expected that the working relationship would be at the forefront. There would be the issue that tutor would have to raise, and the secretary as a politician would have to do her thing as well. So it's up and down. Sometimes the communication is as fruitful as it ought to be, and sometimes it's a bit challenging. However, we have to continue with our focus. Our focus is the members that we serve, and indirectly the children that we teach. The secretary should have the same focus, the employees that they have, and the children that it's under their care. However, somehow we still have a challenge in seeing eye to eye on some of these things, because I believe the repair program should have started when school closed, so that we could see any other little challenges that would come about thereafter. I don't know what every year it takes for them to get the contractors going and get the works drafted and so on to get started. But we continue as best as possible to not take things personally. We communicate with the secretary regardless of the feelings in the air. We communicate with the administrator regardless of however they may feel when they to be going to an interview and may not speak to kind of the division. We continue to do our job. So communication is maintained. There's an ebb and flow sometimes in the quality of it.
I guess you take the good with the bad. Another point in respect to infrastructure and school repairs, I do recall you actually stating publicly that how at one point, and this is earlier this year, some contractors on the island of Tobago were even calling you to find out as to whether or not the payments have been released for the repairs of schools. Is that something that you're still experiencing where contractors are having to reach out to you?
Well, and it's unfortunate because for the contractors to reach out to the union, the teachers' union, to be able to get a voice, it says a lot as to what is to come in this July, August. We were given assurances that the contractors would have been paid and that this repair program persons would not have such a challenge because some of the contractors were threatening to withhold their services because, I mean, after they expend and they have to pay their employees, they are not getting that remuneration from the division. I have not gotten any further update on that. I am hoping that the cash flow situation is treated with. And in all fairness, while the THA current administration would have gotten some of the largest budgets, it's still insufficient. So if we are to treat with the issues in a proper way, we would need to get the proper allocations from central government. So in all fairness, I understand the dilemma of the division. However, when you're in power, that's what you're there for, to manage and make best with whatever you have. So it's not to come and cry about what you didn't get, it's to make the best of what you have. And that's why we're going to continue to put the pressure on the division while we join with them in advocating for greater allocations from central government.
So let me shift focus for a bit now on those who you actually represent, and those are teachers. Now, Tutor, the president of Tutor, Mr. Martin Lumpkin, as a whole, has already warned that there may be a shortage of teachers come September due to issues with the Teaching Service Commission. Previously, you've also expressed that there were issues in respect to contracts for part-time teachers. Have you seen any sort of resolution to such, or is Tobago also expecting to have a shortage of teachers when the school term reopens on September 2nd?
Well, I will tell you, Tobago is way worse, you know. So in Tobago, they do a lot of contract teachers because we have not even done the regularization of the establishment of our schools in Tobago. What we would have had is we would have built some schools in Tobago. Some schools that were 3-year and 5-year became 7-year schools and have not done the necessary cabinet notes and so on to increase the number of teachers that could be assigned to those schools. So what the teacher would have done over the years, to our detriment, would have hired persons on contract in the meanwhile, while they were supposed to be working on regularizing the establishment of the schools. They have not done that. So we have had contract teachers for 15, 20, 20-something years, persons are on contract, not being able to take up any middle management position because of such limitations. We have great concern with the Teaching Service Commission, and over the years, I have been no caution, don't beat up too much on the commission because, they're limited in resources and they're an independent body and we don't want central government to disband the commission. But we are not satisfied at all with the work of the commission. The same way I would speak to the division in terms of the resources you have. If whatever resources the commission has, they need to do their best to improve the appointment of teachers, that rate of appointment. To me, what they are focused on is tribunals and disciplining teachers. Yes, we have some teachers who are not upholding the standards that we want, but we need to have the appointment of teachers done in a timely manner, or else you're going to have the ripple effect coming down to the function of our schools. The THA also needs to work on that cabinet note so that we can have an increase in the establishment, so we don't have so many contract teachers in Tobago.
Now, you said to our detriment, meaning to the detriment of teachers and by extension, the union. Could you just, please elaborate on that and clarify as to exactly why contract teachers are to the detriment to the teaching service as a whole?
Right. So when you are on contract, our contract is fixed. So you can be in a school for 15, 20 years and you can never serve as a head of department, a vice principal, a principal. So you will have persons who are fortunate to be placed in service, maybe 2 years, 3 years, and have to be acting as HOD, have to be acting as vice principal or even principal with very little experience. When you look at the moral, so some of these contract teachers would have to train or guide some of those persons who have come in after them in their functioning of their duties. So imagine you're on contract for 15 years. You have a new teacher just come in. They are asking you to provide that support, and groom this person into these particular positions. who would be in no time above you within the ranking of the school. So the moral of these teachers is also going to be affected when they are stuck in this one position, because a contract, as I explained already, is a fixed position where they are not able to act upon anything. Those persons on contract do not form part of any training. The training is not afforded to persons who are on contract. It's not part of the terms and conditions. It's only in-service persons can have their training, do their diploma in education and so forth. The contractors, if they are supposed to so do, would have to find their own time and their own money to take up such programs on the side. And persons should know teaching is an 8-to-3 job. Teaching takes up all your weekend and so forth. So if persons have to take time outside of the teaching time to go and study, that's very limited time and almost impossible for persons to get that done. So the limitations to teachers who are on contract, it's grave. And when you look at their personal development, you don't go to an institution with a 3-year contract to get any loan of worth to say you're going to make an improvement in your life. So the financial challenges, it affects the family, and we are expecting the same persons to come to the job and give up their best. So we have these little challenges in the education system.
They don't sound like little challenges at all. They sound a lot bigger than we are aware of. But in respect to the cabinet note itself, do you have an understanding as per the status of that cabinet note, of the efforts on the part of the Division of Education?
Right. So we don't just come to the forefront and talk about things. We do a lot of background work. We would have done a research as to the schools in Trinidad, the establishment, number of teachers to the number of students and so on. We would have done that research, put the data together and submitted that to the division. We would have given the division argument points that we can use in forming this cabinet note. That was done February 2023. And I have been asking the then Assistant Secretary, who was a former Tobago officer and tutor, but I've been asking the secretary, who was a former contract teacher, for us to work on this thing. I mean, both persons should be most interested in this more than even tutor. And they would have created a task force to work on it. And we are more than a year and a half later and have made little progress. What the secretary indicated, though, is that the task force would have completed their work. They would have given me some report. It's a bit bulky. But we are still waiting that first meeting. She said by the ending of August, we should have that meeting. And we are ready and prepared to have the conversations to move it forward. But I'm wary of meetings, and they say that persons who love meetings shouldn't be in charge of anything. I mean, there are things to get done, and it's to get it done. You know, the meetings will be important, but it's to meet and then get things done.
Well, Mr. Roberts, I can only say that I'm grateful that we're having this conversation now, so there are no surprises in a month's time when school actually reopens. I think it's
no surprises.
I say no surprises because at least the opportunity is there now to speak and highlight these points. The points of which I would say are very much the same when we had a conversation during the Easter vacation period, as they refer to that space between the second term and the third term of the academic year. But before you do go though, in respect to the registration of migrant children as students in the Isle of Tobago, I know that started last week. It's taking place every Tuesday and Thursday, so today is actually one of those days. But any further updates in respect to how that process has been? It's happening now as we speak. It's still very much new, but so far so good.
So far so good is not a report I could give. We have shortage of space in our schools in Tobago. There are few schools in the rural area that would have spaces so those schools may have about 40-something children in the school or 50-something children in the school. And we are now taking in another grouping of children where there's a language barrier. So the resources that is needed for this grouping of children that we are taking in. Now, I know that we need to have an educated society. And if there are persons within our society that need to be educated, I fully support that. But if we are already bursting at the seams and we are not catering to the ones that we already have, rushing a legislation and just telling the division and the ministry, register these persons and let's get going. It's quite unfortunate. So the division is trying to play catch up. So I'm not certain as to where these migrant children will be housed, if they're going to be placed within the classroom of all the other children, how we're going to treat I'm not supporting segregation, but how do we support the teachers who have to manage both the local children and the migrant children with the language barrier? Are we hiring new teachers when we already can't fill the vacancies in the current schools? There are a lot of concerns with this.
But I tried to put a positive spin on it.
I know. I realize.
But I know that you're very much straightforward when you said that it's difficult in respect to the space and infrastructure as well as the shortage of teachers. So your response is not necessarily at all surprising. But correct me, wasn't the division also providing support and training for teachers in respect to learning Spanish for the events such as this that is taking place?
All right, so yes, and persons believe that when you do a 1-day or a 2-day workshop, you walk into this machine and come back out of this machine as this, well-versed Spanish teacher or person, whatever the training topic would have been. It takes continuous practice. It takes continuous training. I am not saying that the training is not meaningful, but it's not sufficient. So teachers would have done some work in the Spanish and so on, basic level. But if you're going to teach children the kind of content that they require to learn, the basic level Spanish would not suffice. There are a lot of teachers who be good in the greetings, so the good morning and where do I live and those basic level Spanish. Several teachers will be versed in that aspect of the language. But in terms of the teaching of the content and so on, and even to interact with the children those who fluently speak Spanish, speak pretty fast. So it's not the Spanish class where you take your time to pronounce the words. You have to be versed to be able to teach. And that's where the challenge would be. But, we don't preach the doom and gloom among our teachers. What we say to our teachers, you do what you can. That's all you can do. You do your best. We support you in doing your best, and the division will have to step in with whatever support is needed, because we cannot leave the teachers to themselves to just make this work after persons would have sat behind closed doors and made their own policies. They need to provide the support because they should have had the foresight as to solve the challenge that may come with the legislation.
Well, the impression I was given was that this was continuous training. I'm now learning for the very first time that this was just over the course of a day or two in respect to, some sort of training for speaking or communicating with migrant children, because the language barrier is very much there. But Mr. Roberts, as I mentioned earlier, I am pleased that we've had this conversation now. So when September comes, and I welcome you back to the program, it's the foundation for such is laid. There are not necessarily going to be any surprises as such. So thank you very much for your time today, and thank you very much for highlighting these issues. And with 1 month to go, I hope there is some improvement.
And if I may be afforded one more comment, my concern with education and the focus on education in Trinidad and Tobago is a serious one, in that you're seeing the society, and a society is a reflection of the education that's afforded within the country. And it's a poor reflection. We have high corruption, we have high crime rates, we have a negative outlook on what education is turning out on a yearly basis. So we need to really have that investment, and we need to continue the conversations. And thank you for having me on your program, so we can highlight some of the things that we are battling with.
Indeed, sir. Thank you very much. And a very personal comment as a reflection of the education system and society as a whole. Thank you so much, and all the very best to you.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Take care. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we thank Mr. Roberts for joining us. As I would have mentioned throughout the course of the interview, there were instances where Mr. Roberts was actually receiving calls from contractors on the island of Tobago to find out about payments for works and that were completed and works that were in progress. A shortage of teachers on the island of Tobago not necessarily something new, but the situation has not improved. And though tutor, according to Mr. Roberts, have done their part in respect to the information or the points that are necessary for that cabinet mood to have teachers working full-time rather than a contract, via contract, that is yet to be resolved. The situation with migrant children being registered to schools, of course, Mr. Roberts is saying that he's not against education at all for anyone, and no one should be excluded, but there are barriers and limitations that have not been addressed, even though this registration process has already begun. So we had this conversation with 1 month to go, and in 1 month's time, let us see whether or not there has been any improvements. I have my doubts, but I would love to be proven wrong. Let's take a break on the program.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus, quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. The show does not end here as we continue the conversations. In fact, the Ministry of Sport and Community Development is hosting the 2024 Virtual Men's Symposium. Now, it promises to be a space for open dialogue and discussions which focuses on men's role within the family, men's role within society, and just generally men's health and their well-being. Now, it is being hosted by the Community Mediation Services Division under the Ministry of Sport and Community Development. And we are joined this morning by Mr. Fidel Sanatan. He is the manager at the Central Main Mediation Center at the Ministry. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning, Keaton. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning, Mr. Sanatan. And let me start by asking you, I read your designation, the Mediation Center. You're the Central Main Mediation Center manager, but I've never heard of the Mediation Center under the Ministry of Sport and Community Development. Please tell us a bit more about the department as well as the role that you play within that department.
All right. So I want to brace everybody because when I talk about my job description, it gets a bit long. All right.
That's fine.
So I'll start with who we are. So we are the Community Mediation Services Division of the Ministry of Sport and Community Development. So we're an agency, government agency. We were founded under the Mediation Act of 2004. And what that really means is that we are a state agency providing two core services, that is mediation and counseling. Mediation is a situation where two or more persons are in a dispute, and what we do is we appoint a third neutral person called a mediator that allows them to resolve that dispute through dialogue. We deal with matters that could be categorized as either civil matters, that's matters like landlord and tenant, employer and employee, property disputes between neighbors, sometimes community level disputes, as well as business disputes. And then we have what could be categorized as family, where it is that it's divorce or custody and maintenance issues, or even property dissolution when there is property to be dissolved or shared amongst persons. Under the legislation, the matter that we are not allowed to deal with is criminal matters. That is strictly the province of the TTPS and the judiciary. In addition to our mediation services, we also offer counseling. We offer counseling to individuals, to couples, to families, as well as to groups of persons. All of our services are free, they're voluntary, and they're confidential. But as to your first question, so yes, I am the manager for the Central region. What happens is that we are broken up into regional offices. So we have an office in Port of Spain that covers from Port of Spain down to St. Joseph. We have an Eastern Regional Office that's based in Tunapuna. We have an office in Sangre Grande that covers from Valencia down to Rio Claro. And we have a Point Fortin office that deals with the Southwestern region. So there are different managers for each region.
Well, I tell you what, you said when you speak about your job description, it tends to get a bit lengthy. No problem at all in that, because I think we need to have a separate interview to speak further as per your roles and responsibility and that of the Mediation Services Division. It's quite astounding that this exists, and many people are not aware of it. I mean, I'll be very honest with you, I myself was not entirely aware that this existed. So I'm most pleased to learn of it this morning. You learn something every day. Of course, but that's a separate interview, a separate conversation to be had coming very soon. Focusing though on the virtual Men's Symposium 2024, what made your division under the ministry want to host this particular symposium? What was the thinking behind hosting the symposium?
Well, we always create our programs after consultation with our stakeholders and after speaking with our stakeholders, including our clients, executives, and other government agencies. We realized that men face unique challenges, and we needed to create a space for men to address those challenges. This is actually the second year that we'll be hosting the Men's Symposium. We tried it for the first time last year, and the response was good. So we are trying to do it in a larger way this year. There's a unique challenge, I would say, when it comes to men, in that when it comes to human services, that is in health, in social services, psychological care, men have equal access to the same services that women have. However, women access these services at a higher rate than men. And men often access the services, whether it be health or human services, when they're at crisis point, which at some points in time could be too late for the transformation that they're seeking. So we really are trying to encourage men to come on board more quickly, more easily, and to normalize that proactive, healthy approach to living.
So in doing such, it's been stated as a platform for open discussion and dialogue. So tell me now a bit more about the topics or the main themes that will be discussed at this symposium. What areas would be focused in respect to discussions?
All right. So there are 4 themes that we're going to be looking at, exploring. The first would be criminal gang culture and its impact on men and boys. For that particular workshop, we would take the time to understand the effect that becoming involved in criminal gangs has on a person as well as on their family. And we also look at how families can build resilience to avoid the influence of criminal gangs. After that, we'd be exploring the theme. So on another day, we'd be looking at how to support a victim of crime. And on this day, we talk about the actions which someone can take to give support, as well as how to provide emotional support, which is necessary for a victim to heal. On the third day, we're going to be talking about men's health, the areas for urgent attention. And this is where we really want to kind of sound the alarm on what the data shows that men need to pay attention to regarding their health. In 2023, PAHO did a survey of masculinities and health in the Caribbean that highlighted areas of concern based on the trends of they're seeing in terms of male mortality, the medical issues that men have, the mental health issues that men have as well. And that's why that's an area of focus. And on the final day, we'll be looking at accessing support, how persons could access support and grants from our ministry, that is the Ministry of Sport and Community Development, because we really want to partner with as many people as possible.
No, could you tell me now about those who will be participating, those who will be facilitating such discussions and those experts that have made themselves available to focus on such themes that you just highlighted?
All right. Well, on the first day, we have an adjunct lecturer. So this is to talk about the criminal gang culture and its impact on men and boys. We have an adjunct lecturer from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Academy, who is well placed. His background is in psychology. He is Mr. Arundel Brisnell, and he will be speaking about criminal gang culture. It's something that he's studied and its impact on families. On the second day, we're going to have two facilitators. We're going to have a representative from the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board. They are the organization. So let's say you are a victim of a crime and you face medical expenses, you have a funeral to prepare, etc. They are the board that exists under the Ministry of National Security that persons could apply to for financial assistance. So we're going to have one of their representatives talking about the instrumental aspect. So the approach that we're taking is that there's an instrumental and an emotional. The instrumental, Criminal Injuries Compensation Board. For the emotional support aspect, we're going to have a representative of the Trinidad and Tobago Rape Crisis Society. All right, they are specialists in how to provide emotional support to persons and how to provide healing. I would stick a pin in this, in that one of the things that we touched on at last year's symposium was the theme of consent, getting it right,
Yes.
And gender-based violence is a reality that we face. And an unfortunate part of gender-based violence is that men are going to encounter women who are survivors of gender-based violence. It could be in your family, it could be a romantic partner, it could be a co-worker. So learning how to support, how to be a good man, how to help that person heal is the direction that we want to go into, which is why we're partnering with Rape Crisis Society. On the third day, sorry.
No, please continue, please.
Okay. On the third day for men's health, areas of urgent attention, we're partnering with PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization. We're going to have a representative from there talking about the data that they found, as well as the mental health unit of the Ministry of Health that's going to walk us through some local data on men and mental health. I would tell you that off the top of my head, I've looked at their data, and men die at a higher rate of suicide than women in Trinidad and Tobago. All right. Last year, we touched on something with men and vulnerability. We called the first day the myth of the invulnerable man. And we had CAPA, that's the Crime and Problem Analysis Unit of the TTPS, put forward data showing that men actually die by violence at a higher rate than women. All right. It's another man who is harming you. But when it comes to rates of robbery, murder, assault, etc., men are the perpetrators, but men are also the victim. So it's a real examination of men's behavior that we are trying to encourage in this workshop. And on the final day, we are going to have that panel discussion about how to access support and grants from our ministry, that is the Ministry of Sport and Community Development. And it's a chance for persons to get to know the different arms of the ministry. So there's us, Community Mediation Services Division. We have our Community Development Division, our Physical and Education and Sport Division, as well as the Sport TT, that's our sport management company, and our the name escapes me. I am seeing the acronym, but it's our Export Centers Company Limited that helps persons who are involved in arts and craft export outside of Trinidad and Tobago. So we have something like an Amazon marketplace for Trinidad and Tobago products for those tradespeople that want to go into it.
No worries about the name escaping you at all. You've actually already relayed a lot of information to us. So having to actually remember all of this is not easy. It's quite close, and I really actually appreciate you taking the time to share such information with us this morning. One of the things that strikes me though is that, and I do remember this symposium taking place last year. This year also, it's being hosted virtually. But why virtually? Why is it being hosted through a virtual platform?
All right. So what we found is that we are able to have a greater reach. Before the pandemic, we would provide our services primarily face-to-face. What we found is during the pandemic, we had to shift. And in that shifting, we had greater accessibility. We found that there are persons who are from parts of Trinidad and Tobago that wouldn't normally access our services that access it. We've actually seen an uptick in people from Tobago accessing our services because it's virtual, and there are parts of Trinidad where people are able to access it. It also allows us to, I would say, maximize on what we're doing, because the objective of going virtual and capturing these performances is so that it could be put online afterwards. Interesting fact is that for many of our men's programs, we get women who are interested. And while we tell the woman that you cannot come on the day, all right, to be part of the discussion, because the idea is to provide a safe space for men to discuss their challenges, we want to be able to share that content to the public, all right? So we do believe in equality of access. Just because it's a men's symposium doesn't mean that women shouldn't have access to the content. What they would not have access to is the conversations that the men have.
Now, I know that this is taking place from August 12th to 15th, but what are the times for the platform? The platforms will be hosting these conversations and discussions.
Well, it's going to be from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. So it's going to be a morning activity. The idea is that we want persons to tune in virtually. Oh, and this is another benefit of virtual. Some persons do it while they're at work. Like literally while they're at the office, they put on their headphones. We've seen people it's interesting. We see them in multiple types of jobs, from people who cash in, from persons who literally at their desk, we could see them typing, and they give us a side glance from time to time. So it really is something that a lot of people tune into.
No, that's good to know. But you said from 9 to 12. You know how some trays could be. It's being posted virtually, and they might want to know: is there breakfast or lunch involved? Some trays could be.
Bring your own breakfast. That's what I have to say.
You should tell them yes. We will deliver to you virtually. But how can people register to participate in this platform? How can men register to participate?
All right. Well, what I would tell persons is to go on to our ministry's Facebook page. That is Ministry of Sport and Community Development. When the registration link is posted, the link to register, the flyers, all of that information is going to be there. For most of our programs, that's where we advertise registration. We found it to be particularly effective because when we measure, how do people find out about things? They tell us two things now: Facebook and WhatsApp. All right, they go on Facebook, they see something interesting on the ministry's Facebook page, and then they send it to a friend via WhatsApp. So we're trying to move with the times.
Indeed. Well, Mrs. Nassim, thank you very much for joining me on the program this morning. Thank you for your time. But very much to you and the rest of the team who's making this symposium possible. We thank them for their hard work and congratulate them. So certainly looking forward to the events taking place next week. I think it's from next week, Monday to next week, Thursday. That's the 12th to the 15th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Bring your own breakfast and lunch, as Mr. Sanatan stressed on. Thank you very much, sir, though, for everything. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shaw. Hope you have a good day.
And to you too, sir. All the very best. Take care.
All right, bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, for more information, just to stress that point, or if you are considering registering, not entirely sure and you want more information, you can visit the Ministry of Sport and Community Development's website, or you can follow them on social media for more information. The links are available there to register, but you can also get more information from the flyers. And what an excellent symposium on the part of the Mediation Center, the Mediation Division under the Ministry of Sport and Community Development. And need I say that I would love to have Mr. Sanatan back on the program to speak further as per the division's role and responsibilities, because like I said, I learn something new every day, and even I wasn't aware that this existed. I'm not ashamed to admit it, because I believe that you may not have known it existed either. And such services are so beneficial to many in society. You'd be amazed how many people need that level of attention. A mediator very much is necessary at times. You'd even realize it, you'd even know it. But ladies and gentlemen, once more, thank you very much to Mr. Sanatan. That's it for AM Prime. Thank you very much to all my guests for joining me this morning, for their time, for sharing their thoughts and opinions with us. And of course, thank you to my dream team, as I've always said, Ryan Gomezberg and Mile Wood, for ensuring that AM Prime goes out, and for the regional updates as well. I'm Keaton Shaw. Wish you a good day ahead, a safe one, a productive one. And just remember, today is a good day to have a good day. And I'll see you again very soon.
WESN.
The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former Mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the Home Store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Shogunas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue, St. Anne's. WESN 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook. Metropolitan Bookshop, Ariapita Avenue, Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against